So Mark, what you making?
Oh, I'm going to make an umbrella pot, which will be two pieces, although I suppose it's actually going to be three. This is the base of the first piece, so technically I suppose it's even four pieces. So you can see behind me some of the pots that I've made today. I think this will be my 23rd piece, and I got one more after this. But I pat out that base to make sure it's good and rigid and unlikely to crack, nice and compressed. Now that was a 4-pound base, and I've got this 14-pound top that I'm going to pat into something that resembles centered. And the neater you do this, the easier the centering process is. And this is the end of the day, and the clay's a little stiff, so I'm a little worn out, frankly. Clay consistency is really important when you're making any kind of pot. And I just made this stuff a little stiffer, so it's harder to move. Takes a little bit more effort, wears you out at the end of the day. But I'm still here. So with centering, it's really important to get the bottom of the lump centered and the top centered. And if you can get that right, you can usually get the rest of it. Now I'm plunging my fingers down to make the opening. I always try and make sure I initially make a much thicker base than I need, just to ensure that I don't make it too thin. And got a needle tool, and I'll plunge it down in there. I mean, that's a bit too thick, so I can go down another quarter, half an inch probably. And double check it. Yeah, that's about right. It's about maybe 3/4 of an inch. Because when you wire it up, you take a little bit as well. And these are pretty sturdy pots. I've lost too many of them from having had thin bases. I mean, not for a while, but back in the day when I was trying to make everything super thin. And that's aggravating. So now I'm just opening the base the desired width, smoothing it down thoroughly, compressing it, and then I'll start lifting the wall up. And I always start on the left-hand side. This is a technique you see a lot in traditional potteries all over the place, whether it's in the West or in Southeast Asia. And what's really cool is I've just got my left arm braced onto my thigh and my right hand inside. And you just lift the wall of the pot up with the ball of your hand, coning it in as you would for a small pot. And then you need a little bit more water. And give it another go on the left-hand side. You can push the base in more easily when the clay is just coming towards you. It's not nearly as much effort as if you try to do this on the right-hand side. Might even go one more time on the left. It's a good way of lifting the clay out of the base. You just got to be steady. That's the key. I'll take a little turf of clay off just at the bottom to allow the bottom of my hand a little access. And now I'm just, you don't have to go too fast. The wheel speed's important. Just keep it manageable and just raising the wall up nicely. I just close that up a touch at the top, but at the end of each pull I use this bridging move just to really center the rim. Because once you've got a wobbly rim, it's all over. You might as well start again. It's so far so good. So now I'm going to switch over to the right hand side. Again, tuck that little ledge underneath to put my knuckle in. And I'm just taking my time down at the bottom just to begin lifting the thick wall of clay down at the base up a little bit. Just going slow and steady. I'm not pushing too hard. I mean, there's a certain amount of pressure. Can't tell you exactly how many pounds per square inch, but you know, it's a decent amount. And it's pretty soft here. The wall's inevitably a little thinner up here, but I'm still want to be keeping it steady and slow. And got to the top and do the bridge move again. That's still spinning pretty true. And this will be the next pull, will be the big, get more height probably, with any luck. Tucking it in. It's really got to know where your left hand is inside the pot. Have it working in tandem with your knuckle on the right. And again, this clay's a little bit stiff, so I'm having to take my time. It's not, I don't want to move quite as freely. But it's coming. All right. And it's still spinning true, so that's good. I think I'll do one more just for fun of it before switching to my metal rib. Pushing the other side. There we go. It's just got to be steady down at the bottom. Really giving it a good squeeze now and widening it as I go. It's pretty good. Now I'm more or less shaping, so the hard work's done. Well, except this isn't easy. So I've got this metal rib that I've been using for years, modeled on some from those we used up at Cornbridge Pottery in Connecticut. And I'm pushing against it. It's at a slight, the rib is at a slight angle. I'm pushing the wall from the inside onto the rib, and it's lifting and getting thinner at the same time as a result. And I smooth the wall, take that slurry off and all the finger grooves. And I split the rim. I don't know if you saw that, but I got this nice groove, and it's not as wide as I want it to be, which is normal. You just gradually, you get the height first and then you get the width. You've got to be really steady down at the bottom. This is where you can knock it out of shape really quickly. You don't want to push too hard down here. And sometimes it goes off of center up at the top, and you've got to forget about it because it's going to come out all right when you finally get to the top. At least that's what you hope. It sort of settles down. You inevitably squeeze at the bottom. It goes a little wonky at the top, but see, it's come all right now. Check the measure again. I'm getting pretty close. I'm right on the outer edge of that groove now, so drop the speed down a little bit more. You just got to follow that line up. You just got a certain angle that you measure instinctively. After you've made a lot of these, it sort of comes pretty easy. That's got a little bit of a wobble on it, but it's acceptable. Just check that measure again. Yeah, the last thing you do is just pull it out so that it's just the diameter you want. And again, I just got to be careful not to knock it out of shape by pushing too hard down at the bottom here, or too unevenly. This is going to be a little wider. The thing is, I'm just going to measure the top, and that's going to be the measure I put I make the top part to. That'll be all right. It's pretty thin up there, but it stiffens up, and I can, with any luck, get away with it. Actually, that's about right, isn't it? I'll just tidy up the base. I don't mind having that little bit of a swoop. One of my friends, Lewis Katz, calls it the imperial curve down at the bottom of the foot, the bottom of the pot. It just gives it a little grace. Nice little sweep up from the floor. There we go. Just tidy up base. Smooth that down a little bit. And it's going pretty slow now. I mean, it's just a speed that allows you to manipulate that very thin, delicate wall a little bit more. That's about it, really. Sponge it out. That's looking good inside. And I'll probably bevel the foot later. I find if I bevel the foot now, sometimes when I put the top piece on it, as in tomorrow, it'll sag down because I put the bevel in too early. But that's pretty good now. I've just got to measure it accurately. Make sure I make the next piece to fit on top. Yeah, it's pretty close. All right, so that's the way you do it. And I got to pry it off and move it up with the others. And I've got one more to do, having started nice bright and early this morning. I'll be glad of the end of the day. So this is the piece that I'm going to flip over onto the other piece I just made. I'll do all that piecing together tomorrow.
It's quite the workout.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also a great pleasure. It's something about having the clay between your fingers running against your hands that's quite magical. Still, having been doing it for how many years, Dalton? Since 1979. How long is that? I don't know. It's a while, anyway.
42?
That's a long time.
3 years?
Yeah. So I got that centered already. See, if you make the ball of clay, actually Dalton made the ball of clay just right. And if you put it down on the wheel right and you do everything right, it's not so hard.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. And, it's much the same for a small lump of clay. But this one, I've opened up all the way to the back because it's not going to have a base. And you got to be careful when you're widening these rings of clay that you keep it attached to the back. Sometimes it wants to jump and slip and slide off and lose its stick. All right. So I'm still widening the base. It's not going to be a cylinder quite. But I've learned I've got to widen the top quite a bit. Otherwise the finished shape doesn't look quite right. So that's probably good enough. And then I just repeat the process. This is a lot easier. This is just 14 pounds rather than 18. And it's a little bit wider. It's spinning nicely. And again, working on the left-hand side really helps me move clay from the base of the pot up. Trying not to narrow the base on this in this particular case. And these umbrella pots are in part modeled on the old butter churns that were made in these parts years ago. I guess this process is known as capping. And often the potters would do this with a, kind of in real time, they'd make the top first and then make the base. It would be a smaller top and they'd make a jug shape and then just put the cap on it, finish the shape up in one go. And that's a lot of skill needed to do that. This way I'm able to dry the walls a little bit and probably make a slightly bigger pot as a result. But that capping technique that they used is pretty remarkable. Again, I got my right arm braced on my right thigh. And it just provides that extra support to stop you from wobbling, Can't have the wobbles. I'll do one more. Again, the taller and thinner the pot, the slower you want the wheel going. Yeah, I've got a ways to go. Get my trusty rib again. And pull it on up. It's really nice to look at pots upside down. Don't ask me why. That's like you can see them better. Still, I've just got another little bit to go. You always got to watch out down the bottom. You don't clatter it about. I do that sometimes. It's really annoying. And again, it's much easier. It's always easier to widen a wall rather than try and narrow it. I'm right about there. I've got less than a quarter of an inch. So I just got to be careful at this point. Just take that base out a little bit. Actually try and put some of the finished shape in. Imagine what the top of the pot's going to look like. Bevel the rim to match the bevel on the inside of it and down below. That's pretty good. Actually, I went a bit wide. Can tack it in a little bit. That's all right. That's great. I've got a little bit of slurry and junk inside. Get down. That'll do. Might just have another little pass just for the fun of it. Because I'll be able to manipulate the shape tomorrow as well. And it's easier if you've got it close to what you want at the end. Double check. That's right on it. All right, good. There we go. That was the last one. It's a good feeling.